Hello Accounting 101 students. In this video, we're going to go over question 1 in our Chapter 8 end of chapter practice exercises. In this problem, we're going to be recording a few transactions on the books of Swiftly Corporation, and we're going to be omitting the cost of goods sold entries. And actually, for this particular problem, you don't really need to know anything from Chapter 8. You actually will use the information that you learned all the way back in Chapter 5. So in the first transaction, we have July 1st as our date of the transaction, and Swiftly Corporation sold merchandise on account. So that means I get to record our sales revenue, which will be a credit. And because it says on account, I'm going to go ahead and debit accounts receivable. And we made the sale to Stacy Inc. for $22,800. And the terms of the sale is Stacy Inc. can receive a 3% discount if they pay within 10 days, or the net amount is due in 30 days. So this is an important piece of information that you want to keep in mind as we go through the rest of this problem. On the next transaction, which occurred on July 8th, Stacy Inc., the customer, returned merchandise worth $2,600 to Swiftly Corporation. So we need to record a debit to our sales returns and allowances account, which is our contra revenue account. So you'll notice that the debit is the opposite side as the credit. And the amount of the return is $2,600. And of course, if a customer is going to return an item, they do not want to pay for it. So we need to reduce our accounts receivable with a credit. The next part of the problem occurs on July 11th, and the customer, Stacy Inc., paid for the merchandise. So they paid for that merchandise in full. And one thing to do that is helpful for a problem like this is to keep track of our accounts receivable account. So our accounts receivable account normally has a debit balance. So in our first transaction, we recorded a debit to accounts receivable of $22,800 for the sale. And then we had the return of $2,600. So that means that our accounts receivable balance at this point in time is going to be determined by taking $22,800 minus $2,600. So we'll have a debit of $20,200. And this is important because when we have our customer pay us in full, we want to go ahead and reduce this accounts receivable balance. So we want to record a credit of $20,200. So that way these two dollar amounts balance out to net to a $0 balance. So our journal entry will include a credit to accounts receivable for that full amount of $20,200. The other aspect is when Stacy Inc. paid for the merchandise, that means that we receive cash, which will be a debit. And we also note in this problem that the payment date was July 11th, and the terms are Stacy Inc. gets a 3% discount if paid within 10 days. So as we are within the payment discount period, we're going to go ahead and record a debit to our sales discount. And this is where you want to be able to do a calculation to determine the dollar amount. So we're going to determine the sales discount by taking the $20,200 accounts receivable balance, and we're going to be multiplying that by 3%. So the amount of the discount is $606. So you'll remember that your sales discount is going to be reported as a debit because this is also a contra revenue account. I'm going to include in my $606. Then for my cash amount, this is going to be determined by taking the dollar difference. So I'm going to take my accounts receivable balance of $202.00. This is my accounts receivable balance minus my discount of $606, and that will equal the cash that I'm going to end up receiving. So that's going to be $19,594. So please take the time to go through a similar question and your end of chapter practice. Thank you for taking the time to watch this short video.